everybody, it's Paige Evans for Scrapbook.com, and I'm excited to share this new and exclusive layout with you featuring flowers. I can never get enough flowers, and there are some great tools on the market to help these come together quickly and beautifully. The first thing I did was grabbed all of the colored B-side pattern papers from my pink Paislee collections. I currently have 5 collections, and I grabbed all the solid colors. I'm also featuring these Altenew metal dies. There are the Peony Dream, the Rose Flurries, the Fantasy Floral, and the Spring Shower Cover die. And I will have links to all of these so you can get your hands on them too. So the first thing I'm going to do is open up this package, and it's got some sticky adhesive, so I just peeled off the packaging, and then I'm going to carefully peel the metal dies from the sticky tape. Be careful not to bend them as you're peeling them off this super sticky layer, and then grab your manual die cut machine. I'm using a Cricut Cuttlebug, so you place the A plate, the C plate, and then I've grabbed the pattern papers that I want to use for each layer of the flower, and I'm going to eyeball cutting out the shape. I put it on the C plate, put the pattern paper on top, upside down, put the B plate on top, and then roll it through. And I'm going to do that for every layer of the flower until all of the layers are cut out. And eventually I got smart and put all of the pieces of the metal die cut on a single plate at a time and just did one single roll rather than doing multiple passes through the die cut machine. But it all works out in the end. I got all of my pieces of the flower cut, and I chose all pinks for this flower plus a yellow pattern paper for the center because I love having the monochromatic flowers. You could create super colorful flowers and use a different color pattern paper for each layer, but I think having them all the same color in the same family of color creates a more realistic looking flower. So yeah, I'm still creating the flowers, and there are lots and lots of flowers on this layout, so you can make as many as you want, as few as you want, but of course I tend to go the overboard route. Once I start making something, I have a hard time stopping, so I'm always about more is more. So here's the final piece of the flower. It's the tiny center, which I cut from yellow pattern paper. Sometimes if it gets stuck in the metal die, you just use a little paper piercer to get it out of the metal die. There are holes on the back to help you push the paper through, but don't poke too hard with the paper piercer or you'll pierce a hole through, so sometimes even a pencil will work. On the Altenew packaging, it shows the different layers and the order in which they go to create the flowers, so I'm just following those instructions on the packaging, and then I'll come in with the liquid adhesive and make sure everything is put together correctly. I think working with the adhesive makes it come together really nicely, and I love how it looks. So I'm just using liquid adhesive, and I thought about using spray adhesive for this pretty intricate layer, but I just used liquid glue. It works too. So there's basically 2 sections of this large flower, and then so I built the largest bottom layer first, this other layer that goes on top, and then the center part. And again, this process is something I find addicting and fun, and I love the results of this flower, so I just wanted to keep making more, which I did. So here I'll bring it up to the camera so you can see it closer, all those pretty details and layers. So now I'll show you how to build one of the layered leaves. It's the same premise as the flower, there's just not as many layers sometimes. In this case there's only 2 layers, so again I'm using pattern papers from my pink Paislee collections. I chose some minty greens, and I eyeballed and cut 2 pattern papers, rolled it through the machine once again, and just like with the flower, I'm going to refer to the instructions that are on the printed packaging. This time I am going to use spray adhesive because it's such a delicate piece of pattern paper. I want to make sure it sticks on all the way, and here I am at this point. I'm just going to keep building more flowers. This one is from the Fantasy Floral die. It's got one larger flower as well as 3 leaf pieces, and I cut this one from 2 shades of yellow patterned paper. Intricate and beautiful. And then from this Spring Shower cover die, I cut this one from lots of different pattern papers because there are lots of different flowers and lots of different leaves. When I rolled this one through, I rolled it through twice. So it went all the way through one side and just reversed. And that helped cut it out a little bit better than just one pass. And I tried to stick with the same color if it was the same shape. So these 5 star-looking flowers I kept all together. And then some of the leaves, I cut those from a different color and kept them in little groups. And there's lots of different sizes, so you could continue layering different kinds of flowers. So with those 5 star-shaped flowers, I added teeny tiny flowers to the centers to give them more depth and dimension and color, of course, because I love lots of colors. I finished die cutting and assembling all the flowers, and now I'm going to start working on the background. I'm using a sheet of smooth white cardstock and the Floral Drape stencil, also from Altenew, and I have a spatula, a scrape tool, and I am going to apply modeling paste to the stencil on the top left corner of this smooth white cardstock, and just scrape it along. It doesn't need to be perfect. I like having the inconsistencies in the different layers, and of course the texture that this adds is pretty. I am going to loosely place my flowers just to get a basic idea of how I want this layout to look. I know I want to cluster everything on this top left corner because that's where I have applied the modeling paste through the stencil, and I'm keeping the flowers in the groups of same color, so I made 3 orange flowers and then die cut more orange flowers from that Spring Shower cover die. And yeah, just keeping the flowers in groups of like color helps the separation and helps keep things in a nice rainbow of color. Just trying to figure out the general placement. I'm not gluing anything down yet. I still have some work to do on the background. I thought about using this photo, but it was too colorful, so you'll see I switched to a different photo. At this point, I decided I needed more texture going on in the background, so I'm using this 6x6 designer template by Kaisercraft called Bloom, and I love the itty bitty flowers. I'm just going along with the flower theme. I'm using more modeling paste and scraping it right across the stencil and creating basically a triangle, dividing this background in half from bottom left to top right and creating a texture in that quadrant, that half of the layout. I took a picture of the flowers before and then I referred back to my phone to place the flowers back where they were. I am going to nudge things over a little bit, and then I chose this photo of me at the Tulip Festival in the Netherlands, just outside of Amsterdam. And I love all the colorful flowers. The tulips, they match the colorful flowers that I created, so it was a good match. Now that I've figured out the placement of all the flowers, I'm going to come in with dimensional adhesive. These are foam squares that aren't too thick. They've got just the right amount of thickness and depth, and I'm going to attach the flowers in place to the background. I've decided I do need just a little bit more flower stenciling going on in the background to fill in some of the gaps, so I'm using a smaller template from Kaisercraft to apply teeny flowers in the gaps. Time to finish up the layout with a few embellishments and a title. I'm using things from my Pick Me Up collection with pink Paislee. I tucked a half a journaling spot under the photo with a chipboard sticker title on top that says Time for Fun. I'm using another piece of a journaling spot and a .03 black precision pen to write my journaling. And the layout still didn't feel quite complete, so after tucking this purple frame sentiment die cut under the title, I love this rainbow striped packaging that comes in the thickers. It doesn't really have a purpose other than to look really pretty, but I love the rainbow of colors and it matches these pattern papers that I chose perfectly. So I trimmed 2 thin strips of this packaging material, and then I'm going to come in with adhesive and lightly attach it to this left and top sides, the edges, to create a colorful border, and that just draws the eye even more into this area with all the colorful flowers, and then your eye will just gently leave the layout off the bottom right corner. So again, this just adds more color. I'm all about the color, and I love how it perfectly matches all of the pattern paper flowers. I am going to use my sewing machine, it's a Brother sewing machine, and stitch those colorful striped pieces in place. And that, my friends, is the last step. Well, I guess I'm trimming off the excess paper, a little bit hung off the edge and the threads. But that is the finished layout. I hope you are inspired to give this a try. Check out the Altenew dyes. Use my pink Paislee collections to get these bright, vibrant colors. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you again soon.